How long did you stay in Thailand?
So I've been to Thailand twice now. Both times I've gone was 2 weeks. I've always been told you have to go minimum 10 days because by the time you accumulate to the heat and the time difference is obviously a big factor there as well. You're already 10 days in. So I went for 2 weeks the first time and I went to Kip on Tip in Bangkok. It's a really traditional way to train. They're very old school. It's like a shed basically. You've got a rundown ring, you've got proper Thai style training, and they absolutely killed me for 2 weeks. Like, knock on your door at 5 o'clock in the morning, you're going running. Before it gets too hot, you're doing your 13k runs and stuff like that. And they'd get back, you'd do 2 hours training. Then they'd give you like 3-4 hours rest to go to the market, get yourself some nice lunch, rest, sit down, do nothing. Then it would be about 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and you would skip for half an hour, do the same thing again without the run because it was too hot by then. And plus, if you went for a run in the afternoon, you had things like the wild dogs and things like that. Yeah. Especially in the area I was in, it was really like a rural area to kind of a part of Thailand, but it was beautiful, it was lovely. And then the second time, I went there for a holiday, and I thought, right, there's no way I'm going there for a holiday. I'm not going to a rural area. I'm going somewhere really nice. So I went, right, do you know what? I'm going to go to Samui. And but I still knew there was a good couple of gyms out there. So I ended up staying in Samui. I went to a gym called Georgia. Training there, I was massive at the time. I was like really enjoying my food. I fight in the UK at about 58, 59 kilos. At the time, I was fighting at 57. Like when I was 18 on the second time I went, and there was a trainer that really took a liking to me. Somehow he found me on Facebook. I don't know how, and I remember training there for about just over a week. So I had about 4 days left of my stay before I started going back to the airport. It's like a 2-day trip to get to Thailand. And he found me on Facebook and he called me whilst I was in my hotel. And he just went like, you fight. I was like, no, I'm here for a holiday. He went, no, you be okay, you fight. And at the time I had my girlfriend with me, and she went, go on, do it. Like, that'd be like really memorable. Like, he said you'll be all right. Like, do it. And go on then. Like, I'll do it. And then the next day, I'm at training, and some small Thai man come to the gym on a moped, just whizzing about. He's got this I remember it being like a really old camera. And he just pointed at me and went, you, here, like that. And he went, cross, like that. So I went, all right, like that, hold like that. And he took a picture of me. And I went to my trainer. I went, who's that? And he went, that's the promoter of the stadium. And I went, stadium? Like that? And he went, yeah. That was brilliant. Okay, right. And he went, right, step on the scales. And I was like, oh no, brilliant. Like, here we go. I was like 65 kilos at the time. And I was drinking smoothies every day. I was on holiday. You imagine when you go on holiday, you let yourself go a bit, didn't you? So I was like, brilliant. Here we go. I got matched at 65 kilos. And the next day, I've got up, going to training on the moped. I stopped. There's a billboard there. And I stopped, pulled over. There's a massive billboard. I'm on it. At Choweng Stadium. I was like, oh, God. All right. And then I've gone to training. There's posters everywhere. By the time I got to the gym, I've seen about 4 or 5 posters. There's tuk-tuks driving around with the stadium poster imprinted on the tuk-tuk.
That's mental, man.
I was like, oh, no. Like, what have I got myself into? And the promoter's whizzed about, got to the gym again, and he's gone. And I said to my trainer, like, what's he here for now? Like, what am I doing? And he's here to watch you train, to like see who to match you with, and he's watched me train, and so I thought, oh, I need to impress this guy. And when I finished training, my trainer went. He said, oh no. He was shaking his head, and I went, what? Did I do something wrong? He said, you trained too hard. He said, that's not what you're supposed to do. He said, make yourself look crap so you get you an easy fight. He said, you looked good. And I was like, oh, no. And then the promoter come up to me and went, he said, fight I have for you. He went, too easy. So I was like, he went, I get you someone good. And he walked away before I could answer him. I was like, brilliant, here we go. Like, this is one way to finish off a holiday. And I ended up training for this fight. And I remember warming up. My trainer at the time, he had a fag in his mouth. And he's rubbing me down the tile. I didn't get any pads to warm up, nothing. It was shadowbox to warm up. He's literally massaging me whilst he's smoking his cigarette. And I remember thinking and looking around, there's no one here my size, like no one my height. And I was petrified, absolutely petrified. I was in a foreign country. I had my girlfriend at the time with me. That was it. I had no people. I had a few of the French guys that I was training with come to support and things like that. That's all I had. But they weren't in the changing room with me. And ended up walking out to fight. I had a little bit of overhang over my shorts where I'd been on holiday. I got in the ring, and this Thai got in the ring who was next to me whilst I was warming up. And
It's like Danny McGowan's saying, isn't it?
and I remember in the training room when I was looking around trying to find people who I was potentially going to fight, I was thinking, no way, he's way too big. I won't consider that one. It was him. So brilliant, here we go. And I remember I've done my sealing the ring and things like that. To be honest, I wanted another 2 minutes to try and calm my nerves. That's why I did it. And I remember rounds 1 and 2, he absolutely kicked the crap out of me. And I come back to the corner. I remember the tyres were chucking ice down my shorts to try and, because I was starting to get concussed. I was rocked a few times. They're chucking ice down my shorts. They were yanking on my hair. And I asked them afterwards, and they said that activates the nerves in your brain, the tyres for. And
Anything to
Does that actually help? Is that a real thing?
I don't actually know. To be honest, I don't remember much of it. So obviously, Thai boxing, the later rounds score the most. So I always remember saying to myself, get through the first few, he's going to blow out, hopefully. And it was a trainer. I was actually fighting a trainer from a rival gym. And the Thai trainer was saying, there's one thing that's working for you, it's your left kick. Just throw left kick. I remember 3, 4 and 5, all I threw was a left leg, just constantly threw it and threw it and threw it. And this Thai was walking through them all. But he wasn't defending them. He was taking them on the arms, which is scoring. And I remember in round 5, I booted his elbow, and I tore the ligaments in my left foot. I couldn't put any weight on it whatsoever, but I had about 30 seconds left of the last round. I was hobbling about the ring for the last 30 seconds, and I won. And immediately I was on crutches straight after that. I was hobbling about Samui Airport literally the day after my fight with like a concussion and a massively swollen foot. And
That's a pretty mad
That is
story.
that is mental.
yeah, the first fight I had in Thailand's pretty much that was a little bit of a setup as well. That's the one and only time I've been dropped as well. I was 16 the first time I went to Thailand, and again, it was one of those things. It was always the dream once I started fighting. Oh, maybe I can work my way up to get to Thailand, and that's the dream. It's most young people's dream to fight in Thailand when they fight, even older people when they start. So as soon as I went to Thailand and the possibility was there of me fighting, I jumped at it straight away. And obviously I was in a very rural area in my first trip. So they take the bigger promotions fights because they get more money out of it. And at the time I said, right, whatever I get, I'll just give it to the gym because that'll mean a lot to them. Like the purse wasn't a lot, but in Thailand, that's a lot of money. So I give it to them, and we've got on a bus to go to the show after I've trained, and they've absolutely murdered me for 2 weeks. And I just remember arriving at a field, and there was goats running about on this field. And I thought, like, the coach has broken down or something. And then these tyres come running about with, like, some makeshift ring. And they started putting up the ring in the middle of this field, and the goats were still running around the ring. Like, it was... I remember looking to my coach and going, you are joking, like, what? And we went off in a taxi, go and get some food, come back. By the time I come back, there was 400 minimum seats around this ring, and a TV crew set up, everything. And I just remember thinking, like, exactly the same as what I said about my second fight. Like, oh no, like, I didn't know who I was fighting, nothing. And I knew who I was fighting because it was being televised. They made us rehearse, walk into the ring. So I knew who my opponent was. So they was looking around again, couldn't see anyone my size. And I remember them calling out my name, and I had to walk to the ring, and they gave me a combination. They said, you have to do something silly like, oh, you have to do a 1-2 uppercut when you walk into the ring and face the camera. You have to look at the camera, face the camera, throw your 1-2 uppercut, and then you go to your corner. Then your opponent walks in after you. That's the rehearsal done. So I think, right, I'm going to know who I'm fighting now. Hopefully it's like a small Thai. Like, I'm going to have a really technical bout and things like that. This absolute monster walks into the ring. And I was 16 at the time. This bloke had scars all over his face. And I spoke to him after the fight. And I'll get to the fight in a second. And he said, I said, how many fights? He went, every 2 weeks. Like that. And I went, what? He went, every 2 weeks. He went, my job. Like that. I was like,
They're just different out there.
And I spoke to my coach, and he went, yeah, he said about 200 fights by the time. And I'm like, oh, brilliant. Like, but it was quite nice because he battered me. So it kind of made me feel a little bit better. I remember getting in the ring with this Thai, and immediately I was like, I've got nothing on him, literally nothing. And I remember round 3, I kicked him, and he threw me into the ropes, and he jumped, and then I flying in, hit me in the eye socket, and my eye just immediately went whoop, like that. And he almost stopped before he went to finish me off because he wanted me to get back up because I was a kid. He didn't want to stop me because I was a kid.
Yeah.
And I just remember like feeling like this is where I've hit an all-time, like, is it really, can it get any worse than this? Like the bloke's literally stopping from finishing me off because he feels sorry for me. And then I remember just getting back to the corner and my coach was going, do you want to carry on? Like, you can barely see. And I went, yeah, no, like quitting's not even an option. That's one thing that's been embedded into me since I started. And I went through 4 and 5, and I remember 5, there's something called hand in the glove. They don't do it a lot anymore, but when I was fighting when I was 16, in Thailand, that was a very big thing. If you'd admitted defeat and you were like, right, this guy is clearly better than me, he's better on the scorecards, everything, you offer your hand. You go like that, tap gloves, you circle the ring. And every time the ref goes fight, you might do a push kick or something like that, back to circling off. And eventually the timekeeper clocks onto what you're doing, rings the bell. Short, calls the fight short. And it got to the point where it ended up being like that. My coach was literally like, give him your glove. Like, you're going to end up getting hurt. Like, give him your hand. He said, you're not quitting. He said, you're going the full fight. He said, he will still beat you on points. And so I ended up doing that. And then I found out about how experienced this guy was. And it almost, it was horrible. Like, it was really demoralising. And I learned a big lesson that night because I was, at the time, in England, like, when you fight and you lose, some people, it's a really big deal. Thailand, literally, I remember the owner of the gym's wife went back to the gym and she saw me crying and she was like, why are you crying? And I had this massive swell on my head. I was like, blood dripping out my nose. Like, I was in a bad way. She was like, why are you crying? And I remember thinking, like, look at me. Like, she went, she said, train tomorrow on the things that aren't injured. And she was like, stay for another 2 weeks and fight again. And
it's just so simple for them, isn't it?
It was so simple. And it almost flicked something in my head where it was like, wow, it really is so common for them out there. Like here, you think of a UFC fight, when they have their fights, it's a massive deal. They train for 16 weeks, thinking about 15 to 20 minutes in a ring. Them, it's like they take fights on a couple of hours' notice and it ain't a big deal to them because it's such a key part of their life.